Do you believe you are an expert on True Lies, the thrilling movie full of funny antics and spectacular stunts? Rethink your thought. There is a network of secrets, controversies, and behind-the-scenes drama that rivals the film itself beneath the surface of this action classic. The off-camera tale is more bizarre than you may think, with anything from severe injuries sustained on filming to contentious arguments about character depictions. Yes, there is the jaw-dropping scene with Jamie Lee Curtis that will never be forgotten. As we delve into the hidden realities of genuine falsehoods, fasten your seatbelt. Death-defying stunts, a jet with a high price tag, and Jamie's seductive dance. In one of True Lie's most memorable sequences, Jamie Lee Curtis dances sensuously for Arnold Schwarzenegger, who plays her husband. Although the scene's audacity and chemistry made it instantly memorable, many fans are unaware that something completely unexpected occurred during production. She unintentionally slipped and tumbled off the bedpost while Curtis was dancing. Director James Cameron, however, cherished the spontaneity and preserved it in the finished cut rather than stopping the take. The reality of the scene was further enhanced by that genuine moment of astonishment. However, Jamie Lee Curtis had some unexpected and audacious moments during the filming of True Lies. Her character was hanging from a helicopter far over the ocean in one of the most dramatic action scenes in the movie. Curtis insisted on performing the scene herself, even though it was extremely risky and could have been easily done by a professional stunt double. She was passionate about carrying out the act herself and was well known for her brazen demeanor and commitment to her performances. Curtis resisted filmmaker James Cameron's suggestion to use a double for safety. Cameron responded that he would be filming her close-up while dangling from the chopper door when she asked where he would be throughout the shot. Motivated by his dedication, she said she would take the risk if the director was. As a symbolic challenge to herself, she even made the decision to perform the stunt on her 36th birthday. Curtis put in weeks of intense training to get his body and mind ready for the difficult task that lay ahead. She displayed amazing poise when the time came. Curtis maintained perfect form and posture in spite of the extreme pressure and danger as the chopper lifted her into the air at speeds of up to 70 miles per hour. Because of her courage, the scene became one of the most famous action sequences in both her career and the movie. Thanks in large part to Tom Arnold's portrayal of Albert Gibson, True Lies also has its share of hilarious gems. The witty sidekick of Harry Tasker, played by Schwarzenegger. However, the draft did not include one of the movie's most iconic lines. It was taken directly from Arnold's private life. Gibson makes the amusing remark at a scenario where he confides in Tasker about his own troubled marriage. She even grabbed the freezer's ice cube trays. Few people realized that this joke was based on actual events, yet the crowd still thought it was hilarious. Tom Arnold and comedian Roseanne Barr were going through a contentious and highly publicized divorce at the time of filming. Barr had taken everything in the split, including the ice cube trays, he had joked to filmmaker James Cameron. Cameron instructed Arnold to incorporate the statement in the movie because he felt it was a perfect fit for Gibson's sardonic yet humorous persona. The end effect was a moment that perfectly balanced sadness and laughter, showing how even the little losses in a divorce can feel like the biggest ones. James Cameron didn't cut any corners when it comes to authenticity. He rented real military aircraft for the movie, namely 3 Marine Harrier fighter jets from the US government, since he was determined to bring a level of realism that CGI couldn't match. The cost of this audacious action was enormous. Each jet cost about $2,410 for just 1 hour of flight time. Additionally, the entire leasing amount came to an astounding $100,000. However, Cameron's amazing aerial footage made the cost worthwhile and gave the movie an exciting cinematic edge that visual effects alone could never match. And lastly, there is Spencer Trilby himself. Performed by Charlton Heston, the renowned actor. Trilby was obviously inspired by Nick Fury from Marvel Comics, as evidenced by his authoritative presence and eye patch. He oversaw a clandestine government organization entrusted with eliminating global dangers, just like Fury. His company, Omega Sector, was a lot like Marvel's Strike and Shield squads. Full of covert missions and special operatives. It's a small reference that gave Heston's character more nuance and gave the movie a comic book feel. Tango victories and spontaneous giggles. The action-packed roles that featured gunshots, explosives, and hand-to-hand combat have made Arnold Schwarzenegger famous. However, learning the tango presented him with an entirely new problem and real falsehoods. One particularly memorable moment features Schwarzenegger's character, Harry Tasker, and his on-screen wife, Helen, dancing a beautiful and elegant tango. Jamie Lee Curtis portrayed the role. Viewers may have been in awe of the grace and chemistry on exhibit, but they were blind to the meticulous planning that went on behind the scenes. For Schwarzenegger, becoming proficient in the tango was no easy feat. Schwarzenegger dedicated himself to a demanding 6-month training regimen in order to execute the sequence with authenticity. He worked tirelessly to polish every step while studying under seasoned dancing instructors. Swivel and stand. In an attempt to convey a comparable grace and allure on the dance floor, he even took inspiration from Al Pacino's iconic performance in Scent of a Woman. Schwarzenegger accepted the challenge with his trademark focus and discipline, despite the fact that it was very different from his usual shootouts and stunts. As a result, the action star displayed an entirely other side in the performance. Poised, self-assured, and unexpectedly elegant. However, there were other scenes in True Lies with hidden levels or greater meaning. A grenade-related deleted scene provided more context for a crucial event in the movie. The plot originally featured a frightening scene where the antagonist, Juno Skinner, kidnaps Helen Tasker and puts a live explosive between her legs. With Skinner mocking Helen and warning her not to move or the grenade would explode, the situation was set up to heighten the tension. In a scathing comment regarding Skinner's familiarity with things between the legs, Helen maintains her composure. Later, when Helen manages to get away and hands the grenade to Harry, who deftly rearms it with her diamond earring, the scene's payoff occurred. Later, in a dramatic confrontation, he throws the grenade at the terrorists. Unfortunately, due to pacing concerns, the entire scene was removed from the finished movie. Because it lacks the background that made it so witty and sardonic, Harry's unexpected access to a grenade in the film can come across as a little arbitrary. If the scenario had stayed in place, it would have enhanced Helen's personality and given the couple a wonderful bond during combat. Action and tension were just one aspect of director James Cameron's meticulous attention to detail and dedication to storytelling. He was also the driving force behind the humor in the movie. True Lies is renowned for its incisive, unexpected humor in addition to its exciting scenes. Less well known is the fact that Cameron wasn't happy with the comedy in the initial screenplay. He chose to rework all the humorous components himself after reading other people's jokes. Cameron demonstrated a wonderful sense of humor despite his reputation for serious science fiction films, such as Terminator 2 and Aliens. He changed the gags to better fit the movie's tone and the characters' interactions. Actually, just 2 of the original script's humor survived to the final edit. One of these was the now famous statement, "You're fired," spoken by Schwarzenegger just before he launches a missile while a villain is strapped to it. Cameron or the performers on set improvised a lot of the humor in the movie, particularly the clever banter between Harry and his sidekick, Albert Gibson. True Lies became more than just an action movie thanks to this audacious decision. It turned into a clever, humorous, and unforgettable ride. Tom Arnold's choice to play Albert Gibson was one of the main factors that helped the humor succeed. But getting Arnold in the movie was a fight in and of itself. His messy and well-publicized divorce from comedian Roseanne Barr at the time made 20th Century Fox management reluctant to recruit him. He had become tabloid fodder because of the controversy, and the company was concerned that his reputation would damage the movie's reputation. Nevertheless, James Cameron recognized Arnold's promise. He thought Arnold's improvisational abilities and humorous timing would make him the ideal counterpoint to Schwarzenegger's prim secret agent persona. Cameron put a lot of effort into his decision, even threatening to leave the project if Arnold wasn't chosen. The studio gave in when faced with the possibility of losing its best director, and it was the right move. Arnold's portrayal gave the movie heart and humor. And there was no denying his chemistry with Schwarzenegger. His portrayal of Gibson offered comedic relief that counterbalanced the more emotional and somber scenes in the movie. In retrospect, it would have been a grave mistake to deny Arnold the part. But not all that went on behind the scenes of Real Lies was cheerful or humorous. After the movie came out, Eliza Dushku, who portrayed Harry, and Donna, Helen's daughter, made grave claims about how she was treated on set. Dushku said that a stunt coordinator made offensive remarks and behaved inappropriately toward her when she was only 12 years old. She claims that she felt unsafe and uneasy after being approached with sexually explicit comments. Her family was furious and took the studio to court, demanding that it be held responsible. However, it wasn't the only alarming event. Additionally, Dushku claimed that she was physically hurt during a botched stunt. Apparatus designed to protect her threw her into the air while she was filming a complicated shot. She hurt her ribs as she struck a nearby platform rather than landing smoothly. She claimed that the crew's irresponsibility was the cause of the accident. Her allegations raised serious concerns about the safety and welfare of young actors in Hollywood and threw a shadow on what was formerly seen as an almost flawless production. Although Dushku has mostly avoided the spotlight in the years afterward, her disclosures have had a lasting effect on how people see genuine falsehoods. There is now a defect in what was formerly thought to be a perfect blend of comedy, romance, and action that serves as a reminder of the industry's previous shortcomings. True Lies is still regarded as a seminal movie in spite of the criticism. There are many fascinating anecdotes in the film, ranging from Schwarzenegger's surprising career as a dancer to the backstage conflicts over substance and casting. True Lies is more than just an action movie, whether it's because of its commitment to authenticity, its daring comedy rewrites, or its warnings about what may go wrong on production. This period in Hollywood history is intriguing. The near-death encounter and causing the sequel to fail. Back to the sultry scenario we teased at the beginning of the video. Curtis slipped and fell to the ground as she was dancing and undressing, leaving nothing to Schwarzenegger's and the audience's imagination. People initially believed it wasn't planned. They were filming when it happened. Later on, however, Curtis disclosed that it was actually prearranged. She claimed that she could easily twist her ankle in heels, therefore she didn't want to have to fall more than twice. She remained composed and carried on dancing as if nothing had occurred after she collapsed. When she collapsed, Harry Tasker, played by Schwarzenegger, appeared taken aback. However, he later joined in and returned to the scene. The scene was made funnier by his genuine moment of astonishment. James Cameron, the director, chose to leave the scene in the film rather than reshoot it. He felt that the scenario was enhanced by the sincere reactions of Schwarzenegger and Curtis. They ultimately decided to leave the video unaltered. In the wake of the national catastrophe, the film's themes of terrorism and explosive action abruptly become too delicate. For True Lies 2, director James Cameron and actor Arnold Schwarzenegger were excited to work together again. Aiming to carry on the spy Harry Tasker and his wife Helen's story into the late 1990s. The creative team put a lot of effort into writing a storyline over the years that not only complemented but also surpassed the bold set pieces of the original. Unfortunately, many were upset by the cancellation of the planned sequel, which had the potential to be another huge smash. It became evident that filming an action movie about terrorism was no longer a good idea as the events transpired and people's fear of radicalism increased. James Cameron understood that it would appear extremely disrespectful and callous to handle such an important subject casually, even if it could have brought in a lot of money for them. People were afraid to do anything in the early 2000s, including flying airplanes. The public's feelings simply weren't aligned with a sequel in which Harry battles enemies from the Middle East. It now appeared as though the humorous scenes that were meant to counterbalance the action in True Lies were disregarding the outside world and reality. Arnold Schwarzenegger nearly died during the production of a key scene for the film. It happened on an Air Force Base runway during an action scene involving a big passenger jet. As the plane was getting ready to take off, Schwarzenegger's character was meant to hitch a ride on the outside of the taxiing aircraft. However, he was unaware that the stunt team and the pilots had a last-minute misunderstanding. Unaware that the action star was still hanging to the fuselage, the pilots cranked up the jet engines to full speed, assuming Schwarzenegger had gotten the signal to disengage from the aircraft prior to departure. Schwarzenegger hung onto the jet as the engines roared to life, a startling error that put his life in jeopardy. With tremendous force, the plane shot down the runway at over 120 miles per hour in a split second. Fortunately, Schwarzenegger was spared by his quick reflexes. Just in time, he unhooked his safety rope and fell away from the aircraft before it could take off. The wind and powerful forces might have smashed him against the runway or the plane's engines if he had remained linked for one more second. Later on, Schwarzenegger declared it to be among the scariest moments in his entire action-packed career, which was full of dramatic sequences and audacious stunts. Fortunately, he was spared severe harm or worse, and he survived to spread truthful lies for another day. The film was adapted into a video game. However, it is now largely forgotten. It was released immediately after the film in 1994 in an attempt to capitalize on its popularity. In the game, players take on the role of Harry Tasker and go on covert missions throughout the world, fighting enemies with interesting weapons and gadgets. The True Lies video game didn't sell well, despite being produced by Pandemic Studios, a major game studio, and having the official license. The True Lies game received little notice when it was first launched on the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and personal computer. True Lies lost ground to other movie-based games that were more popular at the time. However, as time went on, the game attracted a modest following of aficionados who gathered vintage games. Even yet, a lot of fans of the first James Cameron film are unaware that a video game has been made based on it. After watching this video, individuals who do find the game should be aware that people who have played it claim it's not very good. They have expressed dissatisfaction that it failed to capture the film's thrilling sequences and captivating dialogue. Following its release, the film has also drawn a lot of criticism and outrage for its portrayal of Arab and Middle Eastern characters as terrorist villains. Many people who wanted Hollywood to portray cultures more truthfully were offended by True Lies' use of stereotypes, even if the film wasn't intended to address important political concerns. Art Malik's portrayal of the antagonist, Salim Abu Aziz, was one of the primary causes of controversy. Exaggerated gestures and a loud accent were key components of Malik's role, which immediately established him as a dangerous Arab character. Prejudices against Arabs were prevalent at the time, particularly in the wake of the Gulf War. They believed that playing such a part, particularly in a high-profile action movie, reinforced the unfavorable opinions about Arabs. Malik was criticized for portraying clichés that fused the disparate nationalities and ideologies of the Middle East into a single, incredibly violent persona, even though he is himself of Pakistani heritage. True Lies, according to critics, carelessly fueled illogical anxieties and biases against marginalized communities. The controversy surrounding Malik's position continues to be a topic of discussion, causing some entertainment industry enthusiasts to wake up and start conflicts. Do you happen to be one of their fans? How do you feel about the position? In another scene in the film, Harry Tasker and some villains get into a heated argument in the restroom. This fight was originally intended to be considerably longer and more ferocious. They intended for it to be a massive fight in which Harry would face off against a full gang of armed assailants by himself. With the entire event choreographed by renowned stunt coordinator Benny Dobbins, the goal was to make it appear as realistic as possible. In this epic version, Harry would have destroyed the bathroom and defeated each villain individually by using commonplace items like toilet plungers as weapons. In a very forceful and furious manner. Benny Dobbins had grand plans for filming this battle, including elaborate choreography and a variety of camera angles. However, they became aware that it might be too much as they began to plan it out. They feared that the scene's violence and intricacy would spiral out of control and overwhelm the viewer. As a result, they had to modify their preparations and shorten and lighten the intensity of the battle. The original concept of Harry triumphing over insurmountable difficulties via sheer willpower is more powerful than the condensed version, despite the fact that it is still thrilling to see. So, when you initially saw the film, were you aware of all these details or did you notice the bloopers and behind-the-scenes errors? Tell us in the comments which one surprised you the most. We appreciate you staying through the entire video. We hope you thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll see you at the next one. Remember to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. It will have great significance.